Hi, Dr. Jen. Welcome to the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast.
Hi, Julia. So excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, our pleasure. I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I think it's a soapbox I love to stand on. We're going to do a little bit of kind of what your passion is, how you got there. And then I think I would love for you to share a little bit of your business expertise with us at the end. So we'll progress through our conversation nicely. What I would love for you to do to start is share a little bit with our listeners what you're currently doing with your IHP certification. And then we can kind of talk about what you were doing before and how you got here.
Yeah, I love that. Currently, I am serving women in my virtual practice. I specialize in mineral and hormone rebalancing with a very high focus on stress, which I know that is something that you also feel passionate about. So just really serving, helping women understand more about their body. What are those symptoms trying to tell you, and really kind of supporting them through that journey. So virtual practice is really where I currently am serving, doing some education, also through some programs, and working with the American Institute of Stress is one of my newest endeavors that I'm really, really excited about.
That's great. Yes, we're going to talk a little bit about it, but I feel like stress is sometimes one of those missing links, right? When someone's trying to get well and they seemingly are doing all of the things, and what's that one thing that hasn't been dialed in yet? And sometimes it's the thing that's the hardest for people to grasp and get under control, because it's lifestyle, it's choices, it's habits. And yes, taking a supplement is easy, or taking a pill is easy, but changing our lifestyles, our habits, because they can be tied to who we are and, what we believe, they can sometimes be messy things to get under control. So I'm going to love to get your take on that. But speaking of pills, what were you doing before you became an IHP? What kind of got you to the point that you're at now?
Perfect segue. So traditionally trained, bachelor's in nutrition, doctorate of pharmacy. I am still a healthcare provider, but in the past, I found myself in a traditional healthcare role, really frustrated by that sick care model. I was probably in practice just 5 years when it was so obvious, the gaps in care. I felt like once people entered that model, I didn't see them getting out. I just continued to see the same people over and over. And I really began to question my purpose there and how I was supporting people. I recognized that there were other opportunities, and I wanted to take advantage of some of those ways. So I began really digging into supplements, learning a little bit about herbal medicine. And believe it or not, this is not something we get in traditional pharmacy school, in traditional training. And I feel quite confident to say medicine in general, traditional, medicine training, we don't learn about herbal options and over-the-counter supplements. And so really, really got interested in that and began to just kind of self-taught. And so started there, had my own health journey that brought me to disease, sickness. I unfortunately lived that high stress lifestyle that comes along with being a healthcare provider and a mom. Wasn't taking care of myself, allowed stress to totally ruin my immune system. What I recognize then as chronic fatigue. I went to my MD, general practitioner. I said, help me. He had no answers. Blood work was, quote, normal. I was a working mom, and I was just tired. And so I was offered a prescription for an antidepressant, birth control, and a sleeping pill. And it was an epiphany moment, really. It was just a moment where I don't know why, or I didn't know why at the time. I know why now, but at the time I thought, why is this not okay with me? I'm a pharmacist and medicine is what I do. And why am I just had such misalignment. It was internal. It was just this feeling of like, no. So I said, not okay. I am not okay with medicine for this. I want to know why. I want to understand my body. I want to connect some of these dots. And was probably about 3 months later diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, and really began on my own to research and understand, okay, what are these links? Epstein-Barr, I was, 36. What? Like, this is weird. This is something kids get, the kissing disease, And so that led me to Dr. Cabral and Integrative Health Practitioner. I enrolled really to heal myself, to better understand my body. I did the HTMA test with Dr. Cabral, got some feedback, learned that I had calcium shell, really began to dig into that and the link there with stress and past trauma that was unresolved. And that was really the beginning of all of this for me. And so I have so much gratitude for Dr. Cabral and this program and how it can serve and support anybody, no matter where we are, just trying to learn more, understand more, connect the dots, so that propelled me forward. I thought once I healed myself, I understood better. I was like, people need to know this. Why don't people know this? It was just crazy to me. So I began to then pursue the business side and really look into how can I pay this forward? How can I help other women that were just like me, just bogged down in stress, entering the sick care model that we don't want to be on. So that led me to that virtual practice, and here I am.
Yeah. As you were talking about like your process and you went to the doctor and what they prescribed, I was thinking to myself, imagine how many thousands of women daily, honestly, probably have the same exact experience. And they may not be privileged enough to have, the information that we have. They might not even know it exists. They may maybe feel like they know different, but they're surrounded by people who would think they're crazy, right? Like you've listened to that inner voice, but how many women maybe just like shut it down and they're like, well, the doctor knows better, right? Which is so much of everybody's mission who believes in the whole, ripple effect, is allowing people to understand that there's a better way. You don't have to be, I think, for working moms specifically, doctors, peers, it's just, you just chalk it up like, oh, it's the season of life where you're going to be stressed. You're not going to sleep well. It's just, you'll be better in 10 years. The kids grow up a little bit right. We kind of just get so dismissive of the fact that we're all living in a very common, but not so normal way of operating. And it takes a toll after a while.
Absolutely. I love that you said that. Common, but not normal. I also tell women that it does, just because everybody has it, it is not normal, but we have normalized it as a society, and we've normalized push, go, push through. You can do this. You're a mom. Yeah, you're tired, but just push. Meanwhile, your body's saying, stop, rest. So it's this struggle and we don't listen. And I think that is a great message that we could, billboard out to the world, right? Is just listen to your body. There's a message there. Every piece of the symptom and the fatigue, your body's trying to tell you something. So I think just tuning back in, I think we too in life, we become kind of disconnected from our body because our lifestyle is so chaotic and crazy. We busy. And so it's like, okay, just rest, connect back to yourself, allow you, feel your body, allow you. And what is it trying to say? Let's tune in and then listen.
Right. And so often I meet with clients who are health minded, and it's not until we start talking about what led them to the place where they came for help. But if you can think back, usually the body whispers, right? Like you get,
yes,
you're just like not feeling rested in the morning. And then all of a sudden, like anxiety creeps in, and then you're not sleeping, well at all. And then your mood gets dysregulated and your hormones, right? Like it whispers at first, but we are so conditioned, like you said, to just push through and, be strong. I recently saw a quote that said, I don't want my kids to remember how strong I was through all of my struggles. I want them to remember that I lived, in joy and peace. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, even as a society, it's like, if it's hard, you're doing a better job. Or if you're working harder, right? We have this just like badge for, complicated and hard. And I think kind of need to bring it back to basics when it comes to listening to our bodies. Like you said, taking the time to hear it, but then also listening.
Yeah, me too. That's such a powerful message. And I think it's one that we need to continue to speak out, because women, they need that validation of sort. It's almost like they need permission to step out of the rat race. And of course, they're not going to give it to themselves. I was the same way. I would have felt weak or not enough, or, to step back and allow rest. And so I think sometimes just even us as their guide, are, guiding the clients along to just give them permission. Hey, slow down. It's okay. The world will continue if your kids aren't in 10 activities. I promise it will be fine.
And probably better than fine.
Probably way better than fine. Actually, they're going to appreciate the slowness, and they're going to appreciate that model that they had, because I have 2 girls. And so I think one of my kind of revelation moments in my journey to peace and embracing stillness and embracing rest, part of that was them, and just not wanting to model this lifestyle for them, this hustle, busy, go. I didn't want them to see that. And because we, of course, are human nature, we're going to do what we see versus what we hear. Right. And so, so I think, in my opinion, so much of our current struggles with our healthcare across the United States is because of this lifestyle, this work, go, busy, not embracing rest, not embracing stillness, just disconnecting from nature and those sweet, wonderful moments that are here. So I think that we, as guides, and leading our clients, I just hope that we can empower them with some of these messages. And it's okay. You have permission.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. And before we started recording, I was sharing with you how we had just talked in a health coaching meeting about how odd it is with very young people being diagnosed with cancers, and how we're like seeing it a little bit more. And they were kind of talking about toxins. And yes, while toxins in our environment are on an all-time high, I was like, can I chime in with maybe an unpopular opinion? And I was like, I believe that so much of our nervous system dysregulation as a culture, we distract ourselves. There's no real presence unless you are a super mindful human being, right? That I believe that our dysregulated nervous systems are what's allowing for this disease to express itself at a younger age than ever seen before. And these like rare types of expression. And the body, the immune system's too suppressed to, be in a healing state to fight off some of these, disease or gene expressions. And it really is about bringing people back to nature, the way that we were meant to live without all the extra.
Absolutely. That what we refer to, I do a lot of nervous system work too. And the ventral vagal, that safe and social place in the nervous system, that's where we want to live the majority of the time, because just to your point, that's where we heal. So when we stay in that fight or flight, freeze, fawn, in those places of the nervous system where it's so activated, we can't heal. we're in this survival mode. And I think it's safe to say that that's where most of us live, and we get stuck there, and we lose that resiliency to move between fight and flight and back to safe and social. That ventral, our vagus nerve, over time, it becomes dysfunctional, and we can no longer tap back into that rest and digest, parasympathetic, safe social place. So just to your point, I mean, it's really disheartening to see the statistics and how just the negative kind of picture that we see across all health metrics. I mean, diabetes, cancer, mental health even. And I just get so passionate because it's like, what we're doing isn't working. How can we not see that as a society, that the numbers just continue to go the wrong way? Our incidence of diabetes and cancer, and to your point, all those things, it is not trending in the direction that we would want it to go. And so I think we have to look inward and go, okay, it's not working. What can we do different? What can we do? How can we support people differently? And I think that's where you and I, all of us, everybody listening, all of our IHP community, I think we all agree. That's why we're here. We're going, okay, we've got a different way, and we want you to know about it. And we want to be able to support you in healing. I mean, safe and social. Yeah, I agree. Nervous system is just a big part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love for you to share a little bit about kind of your approach with your clients. Do you, incorporate lab testing so that they can see? Do you simply start out by getting them out of all of those, freeze, bond, all of those sympathetic states, right? I feel like you mentioned, like, it's so hard for us to kind of come down or, go between the two. It's because when you're stuck so much in those sympathetic states, it feels really uncomfortable to get into a place where you can hear some of the internal noise or being still. Like, it's such a foreign, uncomfortable place for so many people because they're used to all of those other spaces. So I would love to kind of know how you approach it with your clients. I think it's a predominantly female clientele. What is your, approach with them?
Yeah, when I started, I really did mostly lab testing, and I love using HTMA and Dutch for women because I can see baseline foundations with metabolic health and minerals, and then heavy metals, and then also cortisol, sex hormones, and some of the organic acid data points. So I started there, and what I realized, I've been in this virtual practice space 2 years, just coming up on 2 years. So what I realized was, gosh, upwards of 90% of all my clients were showing nervous system dysregulation. They were showing that they were getting, kind of dysfunctionally stuck in that parasympathetic state, trying to overcompensate. And then I noticed, just consistent adrenal dysregulation between both tests and different metrics. So I really wanted to kind of understand more about the nervous system. So I've taken many different certification classes and to really understand that better. So now the approach is mixed. I think it's really helpful. Obviously, up front, I support foundations, diet, exercise, stress, all those things. But objective data points really help clients see it, and so much validation for them, because my clients typically are looking for support and help and have been frustrated by the sick care model. And so a lot of times when they come to me, it's almost like they are searching for validation. in a way, and so to be able to show them the test, explain it, interpret it in a way that they can understand how symptoms are aligning with some of these data points. And they'll cry sometimes. I mean, they'll just get emotional because it's like, finally somebody understands and can give me some answers. And so, so I think data points are super helpful. So, and then if I see a lot of adrenal dysfunction and or some areas that I can really help support nervous system. So whether that be through HCMA and some of the data points there, or conversation as we're moving through the consultation, if I hear them continuing to talk a lot about stress, ongoing stress, past trauma, then I think, okay, we could support this. So then that just looks like more one-on-one programming with me to help move them through that. I'm working on a program. That's my next goal, is to just develop a program that people could access on their own to help empower them, learn more about it, understand it, because it is a deep kind of concept. I mean, it like you said, it's far reaching. It really impacts the whole body, but to really understand it and be able to connect it back to behaviors and emotions, like kind of to, rewiring of the brain of sort to get out of some of those patterns. But I think there is huge power and huge opportunity for us as practitioners to support people with nervous system work. It is not something that is happening often out there. And like you said, so important to healing.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think so many people hear the word stress, unless you're in our world, right? They think of like work, kids, money, and that's it. Well, yes, absolutely. Those are, three big stressors in our modern day society. They don't think of things like stored trauma or, even internal stressors, things like mold exposure or yeast, candida, heavy metals, right? We understand like all the nuances and how deep it can get. And sometimes I find that I have to go like really gentle, just starting with the de-stress protocol, right? That doesn't, get too deep yet. But oftentimes, you just peel back those layers. I actually just had a client who she said, you used the word trauma the last time we talked, and I didn't even think like I didn't have a traumatic childhood. She's like, but then I did a little bit more reading, and she's like, I actually decided to start working with somebody to really figure out where a lot of this like perfectionist tendency is coming from. And we think that we need to have major losses, right, through our life to have some sort of little T, big T, whatever you want to call it, that we come out of childhood with. But I would argue that like most don't come out unscathed. There's something, right, that kind of made us who we are for good, like all the wonderful parts of us. But then there can be those other parts that both deserve the same amount of love and affection and care. But usually it's the ones that are negatively affected that we kind of just like bury down. And allowing those to just come to the surface, acknowledging them, thanking them can be so profound for people. And sometimes it takes a while to conceptually get there with people and have them know that like, okay, so you don't worry about finances and your kids are grown and they're happy and you like your job, but like, is there something else that's dysregulating your nervous system from a stored standpoint, right? Can be like one other layer that doesn't always ring a bell with people.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing is internal stressors like thoughts, because I don't think most people don't understand that perception is real to the nervous system. So what's in here, even though to you, I'm just thinking about that conversation I had with my husband yesterday. I'm just thinking about that doctor's appointment next week. What's happening here is activating the nervous system because the body can't tell the difference. And so really help and empower people that way to understand, we've got to take those thoughts captive. We've got to learn, we can't live in the future. We can't live in the past. That's where fear and that's where, anxiousness and worry, we've got to bring it here. And just how you mentioned, I think in the very beginning, that mindfulness part to help people embrace more of the presence and being here. That's several of the important tools I use with my clients in nervous system work, is really embracing the present moment, getting out of the future, getting out of the past, because all of those thoughts, the spinning that happens, that's activating the nervous system. And so I think too, it's enlightening our clients to understand, like you said, stressors are more than just circumstantial. It's more than just what's happening in the environment. It's layered. I think that's why this work can be so powerful for people and so impactful.
Yes. Yeah. I love that you bring that up because yes, thoughts, I always say thoughts, if you're not physically running from the lion, maybe you don't feel like you're stressed. All the thoughts are strategy from danger, right? Like you said, you're either thinking about how you should have escaped yesterday or how you're going to escape tomorrow. And the nervous system perceives those thinking patterns, even if it's positive, if it's that you're thinking of all the things that you need to get done and it's not necessarily negative thought, right? Like you said, it's still constant stimulation to that nervous system because our bodies were designed perfectly. And truly, if we needed to strategize how to escape a threat, the nervous system's on board. You need adrenaline, you need cortisol to run after you're strategizing, right?
Absolutely.
So our bodies are always working in perfect response to survival. But how do we let the body know that this isn't a matter of life or death? I am safe in this moment, right? And it's being mindful and present. You're not going to be mindful and present if you're running from a lion. And so the body will perceive that as safety and you can move into that parasympathetic there. Yeah. I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. Same. I love that you also are passionate about that because that just goes back to that original conversation that we were having, just about the busyness and the lifestyle. And that's where we live, is in the mind, racing around, activated nervous system, not present. But yet we're surprised that we're sick and we're surprised that we have all of this dysfunction. It's like, okay, let's connect some dots here. We've got to have some awareness around that connection and how that is not working for us. There is so much misalignment there. So.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I've said this so many times before on this show, but it's, in my opinion, so much more prevalent with women because our biological hormonal landscape was not meant to tolerate the amount of that fight or flight, right? Men were supposed to be running from the lion and gathering and saving their family, right? It wasn't meant for our hormonal systems to undergo the amount of stress that we're under. So I feel like it affects us in a very different way. I don't think that it does not affect men, but I think that there's a different experience that women are having today.
That's a great point. I love that you said that. I 100% agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to switch gears slightly because I think you have important insight that coaches listening would love to hear. When it comes to, we've talked a little bit about niching down before and how important it is to kind of like have this topic, this specific client avatar that you focus on. But I love the way that you kind of worded it before we started recording, which was becoming an expert in something and how that, has a perception of what people see you as. So yes, you're an expert in stress and helping women, kind of come out of that cycle. Tell us a little bit about why you think it's an important business move for coaches listening to consider.
Yeah, I would love to speak to this. So in my journey, specifically the business part of the journey, I remember, I took the courses and listened to the podcast and really wanted to kind of embrace mentorship around growing a practice, a business in the virtual space. And I kept hearing, niche down, niche, and it just, it wasn't working for me specifically. I think that I it was this, it was ambiguous even then. Like, okay, you're telling me to niche down. So I'm talking about women's hormones and I'm talking about, and just through the journey and failing forward a little bit, I really want to share that, what I learned is that part of the niche is just setting yourself apart in a way that shines light on what we know, going through this program and all the training that we get, allowing people to see you as an expert in that specific area. So yes, you're niching down and you're creating content. Maybe if you're on social media or you're developing a program, if that's, something that you're adding to your practice, but supporting women and hormones, whatever that is, but allow yourself to kind of embody that attitude and that confidence of like, this is mine. This is how I am going to support this group of people, whatever that is, and however, look for ways to network, look for those opportunities that you can take advantage of. For instance, with me, American Institute of Stress, it made sense that if I wanted to set myself apart as an expert in stress, that I would want to align with organizations and, people, mentors, whatever, that were experts in stress, because that's how you build that credibility. That's how you began to really set yourself apart to say, this is mine. This, when you think of stress, I want you to think of Dr. Jen, and so whatever that is, I think niching down is not bad advice, but I think for me, I was unclear about, okay, how is this growing my business? How is this allowing me? So I think, to everybody listening, if you're where I was and just kind of like, okay, I'm talking about these things and creating these programs and building this practice around this, I want to just challenge you, like take it one step further, because I think this is that next step that can really elevate your business. So really start to look around. Okay, what are some organizations that I could partner with? What are some of those, depending on what, mental health is another one that I have seen a couple practitioner friends of mine that really wanted to kind of support people in that space, and just getting involved with Mental Health America. So I think just look around and see what are some of those organizations that you can partner with and really start to embrace that community. And most organizations have expansive resources, which is really great for those of us that are starting out in business, because we're not, we don't have this tenure of sort where we've kind of created all of these resources and it's like borrow, allow that to, but yeah, that's very credible to be able to give to your clients a workbook or, something that provides a great amount of education and information. And so I think just allowing yourself to be the expert, because you are and you can be. And I think we get so intimidated by that word. It's like, oh gosh, I'm not an expert. I know a lot about it, but I'm not an expert. It's like, yeah, you are. And the more you embody that and just allow yourself to be confident there, that's going to resonate with those future clients. And that's what they're looking for too. So hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it comes so much with confidence too. Like you just said, truly understanding and believing. I've shared this story before on the podcast that when I was first starting out and Dr. Cabral and I were working in a wellness center and, we were in person, I'll never forget like my first lab review. I was reviewing an HTMA and an OAT, and about a half an hour before they came in, he said to me, just remember, you don't know everything you need to know yet, you are still the expert in this room. You are sitting on they are here because they need your help, and you know far more than you think you do, and enough to help them that you are the expert. And I truly, usually I cry on this episode. I'm wondering why this isn't bringing on tears yet. I will never forget him saying that. And I've become more of, a expert. I know more now, but I always think back to when he said that in feelings of, insecurity or whatnot, because it's true. Whoever's listening, if you know more about stress than the 3 women that you're closest to in your life, enough to help them, then you're the expert. And being able to help and impact someone's life in a way that's beneficial to them, that's all that matters. You don't need to know everything to be everything. And I think it's such an important lesson for so many of us to kind of remind ourselves of, because it is important when it comes to the confidence of running a business, of speaking to clients, of marketing yourself, and then being able to help people, right? Because all of that allows you to have a bigger clientele with a further reach.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that story. That was really beautiful. I haven't heard you share that before. So thank you. I received that too, even now. It's really helpful especially that he was your mentor and he spoke that into you. So not only did that impact you that day, it's still impacting you all these years later, because it's true. That's so true. I think that is a great addition to the expert topic. You don't really have to have it all, know it all. So thank you. That was great.
Yes. Yeah. And it allows you to kind of also further your knowledge in a way, if we're talking about stress, right? Where you don't feel like you have to be the expert on everything. You don't have to cast this net of intense knowledge across the board to be heavily impacting people. Narrow it down, get clear. And it's usually, I would say, what we're most passionate about, right? That tends to drive what we would like to, or our expertise in something. My husband actually just recently said to me, what you should do? My son plays hockey and he's on a team with high achieving kids with parents who care about their performance. And he said, you should start to work with families on like nutrition for kids and performance or athlete. And as he's talking to me, I'm thinking to myself, oh my dear God, no, I thank you but absolutely not. That is so far from my passion. I don't want to work with kids. I mean, it's hard enough for me to get our own kids to eat what I think they should eat. But forget, right? So when you're not invested in something in a passionate, aligned way, it's hard to put a lot of energy towards it. But when you're aligned with it, it's like you can't stop the energy behind it. And so becoming clear about what it is that lights you up, I think helps so much to kind of drive where the expertise might come from.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So if we have clients, coaches listening that would love to hear more, where are all of the places that you show up? Social media, websites?
Yeah, I am most active on Instagram at Dr. Jen Bourgeois. I do have profiles on LinkedIn and Facebook, and my website is my name, www.drjenbourgeois.com.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for being a guest on the Integrative Health Coach Success Podcast. This was such a wonderful interview for me, and I'm sure our listeners would agree. I thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Again, I just love Integrative Health Practitioner community program, Dr. Cabral. So thank all of you so much.
Yes, I think we would all agree. We're all very fortunate to be part of it.
We are.
Thanks, Dr. Jen. Take care.
Thanks. You too.